Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at Audio, which is a highly regarded and highly requested coin that I get a lot more than I expected, right? It's been a little stagnant over the past couple of months, as most altcoins have, but it's really breaking out here today, and my role is to kind of facilitate understanding why it did that, and obviously making sure we find a good entry point, best practice, help you become a better trader, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and always take ownership of your own trades. And bear in mind, if you're more of an autopilot or perhaps a sit back and try to invest more casually, I actually have an option for you, of course, through my Signal group. Check that out. There's a link in the description below for that. I share all of my trades with my community members, and I take usually in the range of 2 to 4 trades per week, and I have about an 80% success rate. So check that out in your own time if you're interested. If not, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for the consideration, and more importantly, thank you to my current community members. You're all very awesome, greatly appreciate you, and I love and respect you very much. Moving forward, reference my Telegram community if you want some free advice, some free education there. A really good group of folks there too. But more importantly, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get to the charts. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at audio. So make sure your audio is tuned in correctly. Just kidding. We're looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum first before we jump into audio, of course, just because we want to understand what's going on in the market, because there's been a lot going on in the last 24 hours with Bitcoin, and obviously Ethereum as well with the fork recently. So we'll take a look here today at both of those first. First things first, though, just before we get started, I recommend utilizing TradingView. That's what I use here. It is built into a lot of different exchanges, but I can tell you that the TradingView.com is probably the best one to utilize just based on my experience. And I do use a paid version. I have a link in the description below for a discount if you'd like to check that out. It gives you like a free month to go ahead and see if you like it or not. But the reason why I recommend that is just because you got more than 2 indicators present at all times, and it's very helpful to not have to kind of keep adding and removing indicators. You just have them all ready to go. I cycle through a few of them myself, so I find benefit in that. But regardless, what we're going to use here is just simple moving averages. And just to clarify, I use the 50 and the 200-day simple moving average, right? And you want to use that because larger time frames call for a simple moving average, shorter time frames, exponential. It's kind of the general concept there, general rule. And if you look here, of course, we've got the 50, which is this orange line here. Price is well above the 50. As you can see, it's working as a support and previously a resistance. The 200 is a ways away, but we'll bridge that gap when we get there. For right now, it's kind of hovering around 35,000. We do have a support level at 37,000, 40,000, and also presently, or again, more so tentatively, for the moment, it's not official, but we have a tentative support at about 40,500. It was the previous resistance and kind of got blown through, and it's trying to close above that on the 4-hour chart right now. So we'll see what happens here in a few hours when that 4-hour candlestick closes. But the 1-day chart is the most important here, and it's trying. It's almost staying above. We're right at about 42,600. If we can get 42.5 or higher to close in the 1-day chart, we might see a bullish momentum. Now, keep this in mind, that weekends are typically bearish, right? For lack of better terms, there's more selling off on the weekends than there are on the weekdays, just in general from consumers like you and I. That being said, we might see the price go down this weekend, and if so, it might come down to test 40,000. I hope that's the case so we can all kind of reinvest at that point, buy off of that support level, and then shoot to 50,000 once it breaks 42.5 again. That's, again, the general concept, the goal that I'm hoping for here, but we'll see what happens here soon. Moving forward to Ethereum, we've got a major resistance. Well, again, same scenario as the 42.5 for Bitcoin. It's a support and resistance level right now. It's kind of testing that, but if it can close above 2,900, that'll become basically a major support level, and that would be fantastic for Ethereum to kind of break on through to 4,000, right? Again, if we look at the 1-day chart, you can see that it hasn't fully closed above that yet, so that is slightly concerning. Just bear in mind this is going to be a potential resistance level here soon. So going into the weekend, if that doesn't close above, we might see some retracement. In fact, we probably will see retracement because if you look at all these green bars, Ethereum's just been on a tear recently, and it does need to calm down and slow down, I think, soon. Again, bear in mind, Ethereum has a tendency of doing this, right? We've seen it happen before. That's why I marked this from last time. But I can tell you that we may not see that happen again because that was a knee-jerk reaction to all the Bitcoin sell-off from the first major sell-off on the 17th through the 22nd of April. Regardless, we got a support level here at about 2400, secondary support at 1725. The current state of the support and resistance levels, in other words, we've got both moving averages on the 50. The 50 is working as a support. 200 as well, of course, is just trailing, of course, but I think the takeaway here is that the 50-day simple moving average will be tested in the next 48 to 72 hours. So it'll be interesting to see how that responds to the price. It could average out, but it could also bounce off and continue upwards. We'll see when we get there. That is Ethereum. So taking a look here at audio, what we do first is we always look at the average true range on the one-day chart. And just to quickly note, before then, we broke through, and it's likely that we're going to stay closed above the 200-day simple moving average on the one-day chart, as well as the 50. So that's really good news there. And if we take a look at the Bitcoin sell-off, April 17th, that's right here. So audio was rising up so fast and so quickly that it had to retrace. It came back down about 60%, was going sideways in consolidation, and then it got retraced even further based on the consolidation correction, the issue with Bitcoin, right? The first major sell-off in Bitcoin was the 17th of April. We lost 15% on Bitcoin, about 20 to 30% a lot of altcoins. So this was normal, and the ramp back up is normal too. You see that with most altcoins. And then of course we see that one of the main catalysts here, May 12th, was the Elon candle. Thank you, Elon. And then we got the 18th/19th of May, which is the China candle we're all familiar with. That just kind of sent things into the crapper. So at this point, audio has been going a whole lot of sideways. It pumped on the 13th, but it retraced back down, and it pumped over by the course of 5 days after Bitcoin sold off, or correction, after Bitcoin stopped selling off and actually increased above 30,000. So as you can see, audio does really well when Bitcoin goes on these tears, right? So when Bitcoin is ramping up 5 to 10% in a 24-hour period, audio is trying to do the same thing. Only it's a little more heightened too, because honestly, if you look at this, that's almost 20%. So you could say that audio is kind of an exponential mover when Bitcoin responds, to the price action. So that being said, audio looks to be pretty interesting. I do like that about it. So there's a strong chance we're probably going to see that happen again. As far as, just say over the weekend, Bitcoin sells off down to 40,000, bounces off that support level and increases and jumps through 42.5 again, and starts hitting 43, 44, 45, then we're going to see audio take off again. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't move independent of Bitcoin. It's very reliant on it, but it seems to move exponentially with Bitcoin. Okay. So I'd say make sure you have an alert set up at like 41,000, so you know kind of when the price comes back down, or set an alert for 42,500. Pay attention to Bitcoin this weekend, see what happens. Hopefully it retraces, and then we can get audio to blast off again, right? That being said, we're looking at a RSI up over 65 on the one-day chart, so still some room for growth. We did have a convergence here today on the 5th, which is no surprise. We'll just go ahead and mark that on the chart. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 4-hour chart, see what's going on. That is the 4-hour, basically the one-day convergence on the MACD. And you can kind of see how that happened. It came up, swung down, and back up again, bounced off the 50-day simple moving average, and continued upwards. Furthermore, we also have the RSI up over 70. That's about 78. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to sell your positions. Depending on which kind of position you have, you might want to consider trimming or waiting for the RSI to come back down. That's a better method to take. Check my RSI video out if you'd like to understand more so on how to do that. Down below, we do have a convergence on the 4th of August at 5 a.m. Let's go ahead and mark that guy here. And I like to mark these things because when we look at the Ichimoku cloud, we can kind of identify the correlation. Because if you're not using the cloud, you definitely should be, because it's a very beneficial indicator, but it's preferably better on the 1-hour chart. I prefer it on the 1-hour chart myself. Some people like it on different time frames, but I think the 1 hour is the most effective. But why don't we go ahead and take a look at that here instead of speculating. So let me show you what I'm talking about. First of all, this line gets a little squiggly when we go from larger time frames to shorter time frames. But simply put, this is the 1-day chart for the convergence, right? And this is the 4-hour chart for the convergence on the MACD. And that's when the 12 intersects with the 26 in an upward fashion. Now, if we look at the Ichimoku cloud, we can kind of see what's going on here. So the 1-day chart is a little bit of a lag, right? We would have got in a little bit late. However, if you look right here, according to the cloud, we could have taken entry here, not 4 hours after the 4-hour time frame on the MACD indicated that we have a buy signal. So we've got 3 buy signals here in a matter of just say 24 hours. So had you taken entry in any one of these 3 points, you probably would have been able to take advantage of that that increase, which is approximately, again, depending on your entry, somewhere in the range of 20+%. Okay, so these are things I like to look for when I'm swing trading, when I'm sending signals to my community, because I do have a Patreon account where I actually share with my community members all of my trades that I take. I take an average about 2 to 4 trades per week, and I have about an 80% success rate. And it's because I utilize things like this, right? I pay attention to this, I scan the markets, find these things just before they happen. If you can find a breakout before it occurs, best time to invest. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at there. That's where I recommend. So just to know, if you're new to the Ishimoku cloud or the channel, whatever, the cloud basically tells us that when the price is above, it's considered a buy signal. So you'd want to go long here essentially, right? And when it's below, it's considered a sell signal. So you'd kind of go kind of short in that scenario, right? Now again, it's not a perfect exact science, but if you can get that to match up with the MACD on the 4-hour chart or the 1-day chart, you're golden, right? It increases your odds of success significantly. So always recommend checking that out. Let's take a look at the TD sequential, see if we're in overtime here. Damn right we are. Oh my gosh, look at that. So TD sequential is really cool because it tells us states of exhaustion, right? So if we look here, we've got 1 counting all the way up to a 9. You see how it stops counting up? Normally it would count, down if it was to come back down. But traditionally, when you reach 9 hours of exhaustion, or just say 9 candlesticks, you should expect a retracement sometime in the near future. In other words, the price should be coming down. So right here, the price should have came down. It didn't. It's keep going. It's still going. So Audius obviously got some good fundamentals pushing the price up here. So it's just something to pay attention to. All right. So bear in mind, we are in a state of exhaustion. There's a strong likelihood of a retracement coming soon, but I'm sure this is pumping because of the fact that Bitcoin did so much here today that it had to jump up and continue on, right? Again, it's not following Bitcoin exactly, so that tells me that there are some fundamentals here. But again, Audius tends to 2x, so to speak, when Bitcoin, whatever Bitcoin does 5%, Audius does 20 or 10%, or even 20 in some cases. All right, so that's just something to note. So that's pretty much the main thing I wanted to show you here. So my prediction for Audius, I would say, is if we look at the 1-day chart, we can see before this retracement on April 17th, the price action stayed between 230 upwards of about, just say, $4. So 230 to $4, and that's when Bitcoin was at 50 to 64,000. Bitcoin's at 42,500 and the price is 138, right? So we do still have some room for growth. Again, I think there's probably about 80 to maybe $1 worth of increase that we could see in the next couple weeks. So my prediction here is if Bitcoin can continue to trend upwards closer to 50,000, then we're going to see Audius testing $2.30 and higher. Okay, but is it going to just continue taking off on its own? Probably not, because it is self-reliant on Bitcoin. So mark your charts for Bitcoin and see how it responds to 40,000, 42,500. If it decreases to 40,000, we actually want that over the weekend here, because that'll cause us to have a bounce back. It'll bounce off and it'll shoot through 42.5 again like it did today, only much harder and much quicker based on the fact that there's going to be a lot of shorts getting squeezed out. So there's a lot of people right now trying to squeeze as much as they can out of the short positions, and these support levels for Bitcoin, the major support levels, are holding strong. So just keep that in mind and make sure you understand that going into your Audius trades. So I hope you found benefit here. Obviously, check out my Patreon account if you'd like to show your support. Perhaps you're interested in some signals, because I do share all of my trades with my community members. Also have a Telegram community too, which is a really good group of folks there. Check that out. You can learn a lot. There's no cost, of course, right? So thank you again for your time here today. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a good one.